Welcome to a whole new edition of the H-Man podcast. Today, we're going to talk about it finally. Infrared and red light therapy. All the time, I'm getting asked, what's your take on infrared saunas? What's your take on red light therapy? What about just regular saunas? What about cold plunges? We're going to dive into the science of infrared and its effects. We're going to talk about it based on evidence, all the research I've done over the web. I also have all the references available to you so you can check out these primary sources yourself if you want it. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. So, the sun, the source of life, is the source of infrared in nature. Solar emissions before it penetrates the Earth's atmosphere are uniform. The Earth's atmosphere absorbs some bands of the solar emissions through environmental gas and water molecules. So the Earth's atmosphere absorbs some of the solar energy. Since the human body is 70% water, large amount of the energy accumulates and modulates biological processes inside our cells. Absorption absorption of infrared is mediated by water molecules. So we are made of water, so therefore getting exposure to infrared affects our cells and affects our body. Okay? So it's not a new invention. Infrared or thermal radiation is a band of energy of energy in complete electromagnetic spectrum produced by the sun. So ancient sciences use the sun for healing of wounds and pain relief. That's something that we've been doing as human species for maybe millennia. The frequencies at which maximum radiations are emitted are proportional to the temperature, which means the higher temperature, the higher the frequency, so the shorter. So the higher temperature, that means you need a higher temperature, so you want to equi- produce that through higher frequency short wavelength, and infrared falls exactly in that category because you can see radio waves in the beginning of the spectrum does not cause any heat, but microwave has shorter wavelength. So now we're starting to see some heat here. Everyone has a microwave in the house. Infrared falls perfectly in that area with a long wavelength and high frequency. It's relatively high frequency. Okay, after the infrared, you can now this is the electromagnetic field, which is the visible light, and then you have ultraviolet and X-ray and gamma rays. You don't see none of that with the naked eye. Only we can detect that through devices and receptors, um, which I'm not going to try to talk about because I don't want to make this into a physics lesson. Okay, so infrared falls into the category of electromagnetic wave that causes high temperature because it has short wavelength and high frequency relatively on the spectrum. Okay, so we're going to talk about the conditions that has been proven to help through infrared. Okay, all is going to be based on studies that I looked it up online. I didn't do anything special. However, I worked really hard to bring you this information to you. So, knee osteoarthritis and chronic pain disorders. So there are several studies stated that overall infrared appears as a safe and effective complementary therapy for a number of musculoskeletal conditions, including knee osteoarthritis, fibromyalgia, and chronic myofascial pain. Its efficacy remains debatable when it comes to low back pain and muscle damage in sports injuries. So that those studies didn't really understand or find an, an effect on low back pain and sports injuries. However, it's always used for those causes, and I'm going to discuss that in the next slide. So the studies that discuss the osteoarthritis and fibromyalgia find that the particular fabrics coated in bioceramics could decrease the fibromyalgia-associated pain and burden in female patients by 21% when they look at the visual analog scale, as infused with. So these basically are like almost like a heat pack. It's infused with thermoactive minerals powder that have been superheated and turned on into fabrics. So then the fabric is surrounding it for healing and recovery. Found it's also found in mats. It's found in some braces and etc. And I got a question from someone asking me about a mattress that produces this type of infrared. So now the effects of infrared on low back pain. The infrared therapy unit used was demonstrated to be effective in reducing chronic low back pain, and no adverse effects were observed. In a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, the infrared wraps has clearly demonstrated that it is easy to use, safe, and effective, and reduce chronic back pain by 50% over a course of 6 weeks. So I have some reserves about this claim. However, I'm sure it's a true research. But if you saw some of my videos before, that low back pain cause and type is not specified here. So, and we learned before, and I discussed this before, that non-specific low back pain can heal on its own without intervention. So maybe we have to look at this again. But I am sure a source of heat will help, the pain in general. And I'm gonna give you my full take on this in just a short while. Now, effects on post-surgical rotator cuff repair. So there is another clinical study, randomized comparative study showed far infrared after arthroscopic rotator cuff repair effectively and safely reduce post-operative pain, thereby facilitating rehabilitation and better range of motion in the early post-operative period. So another study shows some positive effects of infrared in one of the injuries that we see in Theracave Physical Therapy, which is rotator cuff, very common injury that I worked with over the years. Types of infrared. So now we're going to discuss the types. So luminous near infrared is basically the light bulb, the red light bulb that you see. It's an infrared produced by incandescent lamps in the luminous generator. The lamp consists of a wire filament enclosed in a glass bulb. Okay, so it's just a bulb like a regular light bulb. Okay, the front of the lamp is red to filter out short, visible, and UV rays. However, it's still producing red light, and this is the red light therapy. Okay, so red light is still produced by the luminous near infrared lamp. So if you buy a heated lamp that produces red light, it's kind of giving you the combo of red light therapy, which we're going to discuss in a minute, and it's also going to give you an infrared thermal effect, which is naturally not visible for the eye. Keep that in mind. So if you see something that's shining red, that's a red light therapy. Maybe have a thermal effect. If it has thermal effect, that's infrared, and not necessarily always infrared will be visible because it's not visible anyways. It can be combined with red light. Okay, so we discussed the luminous near infrared. Now we're going to discuss the non-luminous far infrared that you don't see. It's not a luminous object that produces the infrared. Non-luminous generator, an electric current passed through coil of wire on an insulating material like porcelain, fire clay, which produce heat. It's like almost like a heating pad. The infrared emitter is placed at a reflector to reflect radiation in a uniform beam. So then there is another reflector, another layer of this process to have that effect more uniform. That is not just concentrated in one area of the generator of infrared. The heated wire and the heated material emits infrared. So the wire and the reflector produces infrared. Non-luminous infrared requires some time to heat up before the emitted rays reach maximum intensity, and so must be switched on at an appropriate time prior to use. Okay, so you're not going to be able to use it right away. You need to turn it on, leave it for a few minutes, and then it reaches maximum intensity. Now it's ready to use. Far infrared wavelength is too long to be perceived by eyes. However, the body experiences its energy as a gentle radiant heat which can penetrate up to 1.5 inches, 4 centimeters, beneath the skin. So that's a good effect. If you think about it, that penetrates 1.5 inches. So not bad at all. There are a lot of muscles located 1.5 inches away, especially the back. So that can be a good effect. Now we're going to talk about the red light therapy, and also that came out it was a big trend, especially after pandemic. I remember this time, a lot of people asking about red light therapy. So red light therapy, usually ranging from 620 to 750 nanometers. When you compare that to near infrared, it's 750 to 1200 nanometers. So the wavelength is different, and then the penetration is different. Have the ability to penetrate the skin at a different levels. It is used to treat some skin conditions and wound healing. It also has been used in the wellness world for skin rejuvenation and hair regrowth. So, red light therapy, now we know it's a surface, superficial effect. It only works on skin, it works on the hair cells, maybe, but does not penetrate like infrared, as we saw some of them penetrate up to 1.5 inches. Okay, so now we get to my take. What's my conclusion to this subject? Because I wanted to work on this to give you a pearl of knowledge. So when you buy something or you want to understand the mechanism of action, now you have it. So research has proven the efficacy of infrared in certain conditions like osteoarthritis, low back pain, chronic pain disorders. There is no single protocol of application of infrared therapy. So there's no one suggestion of how much exposure of infrared that will be sufficient to treat osteoarthritis. However, in my opinion, I think the exposure should be daily, and it should be like between 20 to 30 minutes per day. That will be my take on it, because I don't think you're gonna get so much effect if you just go to therapy, like a physical therapy or a spa, 2 3 times a week, getting a 20 minutes, 30 minute session. That's not gonna give you the effect. Same is true for red light therapy. If you wanna get skin rejuvenation effect or hair regrowth effect, I think it's the best to have your own device and get a daily exposure of that red light therapy or infrared or the combo of both. If you want to get a thermal effect and the red light therapy effect. So it is safe to use except in few rare conditions. So there's not a lot of contraindications, but I'm going to mention that in a minute. It is not a standalone treatment for any orthopedic or musculoskeletal condition. So if someone hurt their back, you can't just rely on a passive treatment of thermal effect of the infrared or infrared sauna. Maybe that would be good for the long term, just to keep you from taking pain medication. It's a good alternative for a pain relieving medication, but it's not something that you should rely on. If you have a musculoskeletal condition, then you should work on rehabilitating the condition. Maybe you can combine that with infrared, but it's not. You can't use infrared only in that effect, because it's not gonna improve your range of motion. If you have a range of motion issues, that means that you need some maybe hands-on work and exercise, manual therapy and exercise that's gonna bring about that physical effect on your range of motion. Some thermal effect from infrared can improve it or alleviate pain through the process, but it's not gonna treat your low back pain. It's not gonna treat your shoulder stiffness. So that is my take in this point. It is widely available for consumers, so it does not require a medical uh, prescription. You can go anywhere to buy it. There's so many variety of options, and I'm happy to help you answer any question. If you have a product that you want to run by me, and I can take a look at it and give you my honest opinion, whether it's worth it or not. Especially some of them are really overpriced, and some of them are, have like a more moderate price. It does not require a skilled professional to operate. Um, you don't need a physical therapist or an acupuncturist or chiropractor to give you this treatment. This can be operated at home, or even like in some of the rehabilitation centers. They usually have the technician in charge of that because there's no skill required to uh, turn on an infrared machine, or like if you buy your own infrared belt for your low back pain, that's just something you can get on your own and do it. However, like I said, I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm saying that you should not just rely on it. I think if it's going to help you to not take pain medications, then I'm 100% for it. Impaired. So those are the contraindications for infrared: impaired cutaneous thermal sensation, defective arterial cutaneous circulation, dermatitis or eczema, tumors, skin damage due to ionizing radiation, tuberculosis, photosensitivity, hyperesthesia, mental retardation, metal implant, or fever. Okay, so those are the contraindication. If you have any questions, please, you can write me in the comment, or you can send me an email, and we can discuss any product that you have in mind and you want to buy. Thank you for watching.